the big story, we're kind of, I don't know, we're kind of dealing with the same crap. If you look at the shooting in Florida, it's the same crap. It's a Nazi with a gun. Okay, got it. Nazis, bad. Guns, neutral. Let's make sure that Nazis don't have guns. Might be a good idea. Unfortunately, the progressives are trying to make sure that no one has guns except for them.
Yeah, right.
It's a bad thing.
Because those Nazis don't typically listen to rules all that
I know,
well.
I know.
When they're made by people who they don't like.
Yeah.
The thing that fascinated me a little bit about that story was, number one, how it's a national story. Like, it sounds like a really terrible incident, obviously. Like, anytime there's a shooting of 3 people, it's a terrible incident. But, like, how many times does that happen in Chicago or any other major city?
Hear
like,
about it.
And I guess it's not a story when the people have the same color skin doing it to each other. If it's 2 white people doing it to each other or 2 black people doing it to each other, we don't report on it at all. Mm-hmm. But because this manifesto, which we suddenly have almost immediately, which I thought was not the pattern anymore. I thought we had to wait months and months and months for politically based ideological rants about murders. All of a sudden, we have it right away in this case. And because it's apparently a completely insane person with a dash of racism or maybe a heaping spoonful of racism.
Maybe
involved. Maybe a shovel of racism. But like seemingly other indications, it was beyond racism, like real mental health difficulties and insanity going on. But we learned about that right away. And it's to me, kind of amazing how quickly we've had this total turnaround. You go back and look at polls from 15, 20 years ago, and you see America was pretty close to having racism solved. That's not by me saying it. It's the people who were living at the time, including African Americans, saying like, yeah, things are pretty good race-wise. And it's completely fallen apart ever since we've decided to try this solution of, hey, everybody, what if we all say that all white people are racist no matter what they do or say, and we'll also say all black people are victims and have no chance of succeeding on their own no matter what they do or say, and let's give that a shot for a couple decades and see how it turns out. Apparently.
Yeah, I think we've done it. We're just a few years from 2 decades of doing it. 2028 will be the 20th anniversary of racial and social justice.
The post-racial period.
Yes, and the post-racial period. And it's not turning out to be quite like that.
Just elect Barack Obama and look at the post-racial period.
It'll be wonderful.
And it's funny because you remember, we were, of course, covering that back in the day. And I remember walking, we did this coverage and we were in New York City at the time. And I remember walking to the hotel I was staying at from the studios. And people were again, remember this is New York City. People were in the streets celebrating, in the streets trying to, not just because he was a Democrat, but I think larger because he was black. It was like our first black president. And even though I thought he was going to be a terrible president and you thought he was going to be a terrible president and everyone in this audience thought he was going to be a terrible president, there was still that piece of like, well, there's a real cost to this because he's going to be a bad president, but at least it's good that, like, we can all put this race thing finally behind us. Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Obviously, we elected a black president. Yeah. This is not a racist country. Yeah. Completely wrong. Yeah. But the total opposite way in every single possible.
First president is like, I am powerless.
Yeah, right.
I am powerless. I got here despite all the racists in the country. And you're like, wait, what? What happened?
How did that? What? That's not.
Yeah, the Klan, they were out. They were out in force voting for Barack Obama, I guess. How else did he win if we're all Klans members?
Yeah. Amazing. What a weird time. It's been every piece of medicine they've tried to apply to this problem has done the exact reverse.
Well, but at least it's only in one category. For instance, it's not in, like, education. The more the progressive gets involved in education, the worse the education gets.
Okay, that's 2 examples, though. That's all you have. You have nothing else other than those 2.
We have the more they try to lower gas prices through regulation, the higher the gas price goes.
Well, sure. I mean, that one's well known, but that's really about it.
You also have, this promise of equality and, blacks had and minorities had the best they've ever had in success and prosperity under Donald Trump. But now that they've promised that they were going to equalize things and make things better for the working class, blacks and Hispanics, they're no longer enjoying that prosperity.
Yeah, there's a story out today that's skyrocketing.
Yeah,
right.
So that's weird. Isn't
Wow,
it?
it's a stunner.
It's weird.
It's almost like everything they touch turns to
garbage.
I was going to use a different word than that. Yes,
it's hey, our Inflation Reduction Act does the exact opposite.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sir, you have a few thousand examples, and that's about it.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I only have everything they do and say how much we're going to reimagine the police and make our communities safer.
Has that worked?
Well,
Nothing
my question
they do works.
My question is, have you had enough yet? Have you had enough yet? Do you have enough evidence yet? Because I do. I've had it for quite some time, but maybe I was just quick on the uptake on this particular 1,000 issues. When have you had enough?
And you realize, I think, when you look at our major cities around the country, there's never a time they get it. It never comes.
Never comes.
You could put the same people in office for 100 years.
They have.
And they failed for 100 years, and they will still elect the same people.
I know.
It's incomprehensible. Honestly, wouldn't you just try something else out of default? Right? You know what? I don't know. Look, the whole low taxes freedom thing sounds terrible to me, but maybe we should give it a whirl. Right? Isn't there a moment you consider that? And the answer largely is no.
No.
They don't ever consider it.
New York, same thing. And it kills me the way New York is now reacting to the migrant problem. Oh my gosh, it is. It's crippling New York City. And they've got 35,000, and it's just crippling them. They can't handle it. Have you been to Houston? Have you been to Dallas? Have you been to the border? Have you been to Arizona? I mean, what are you talking about? Have you been to California? Yeah, because New York, you don't even have to fly. The only difference between you and Los Angeles now, palm trees. That's it. Oh, and snotty celebrities. No, you've got enough snotty celebrities there.
It's fascinating to watch this because, of course, obviously, places like Texas and other border states have been complaining about this forever and saying, we've got a real problem here. No one's helping us. And, but it's amazing to see, a few buses. This is what set you over the edge?
Yeah, I know.
Your society was so close to the edge that a few buses of people that you said you wanted, by the way. We should point out, you were welcoming your sanctuary city. You wanted this so badly. A few buses show up from the South, and all of a sudden you can't run your society anymore. I will say, Texas, for all it gets all this beating about how these evil right wingers and how they hate immigrants. Look, our day-to-day life in Texas it's filled with interactions with illegal immigrants. They live in our society all around us, and largely we just get along with them. Now, we all realize there are societal issues with our law and how that works, but generally speaking, we wish the law was applied better, but if they're here, you have interactions with them, they're like any other person. We treat them like every other person, even though we don't think the law is being applied appropriately. New York's they see 4 people with Hispanic last names and they just decide they're going to abandon the state. What is happening? Why can't you figure this out?
Because here's the difference. In Texas, generally speaking, they'll go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In New York, they go to the plaza.
And why would they go to work?
Why would you?
In Texas, you do get, look, there are definitely people living off the dole. The criticisms we have of this system are real. But you're right. A lot of people come here, even though they're not supposed to be here, and they shouldn't be here because they're breaking the law being here. But they go every day and they work and they interact with people and have a relatively normal life. And while there are major problems, somehow Texas has been able to do it without, by the way, a state income tax, I should point out. They are somehow able to we're keeping this society running with, I don't know, 10 times, 20 times as many illegal immigrants and no state income tax. And yet this place runs 100 times better than New York. I live there. I was born there. I know. It runs much, much better. I've lived in both places. It's not close. So what is the problem? I don't know. Could it go back to the original part of this conversation?
Well, no, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, because look, our schools are safer now. All of our schools, they're all saying, we want children to feel safe, to express who they are and be safe. And there's a teacher of the month, Casey McGrath. She is fabulous. Just won teacher of the month. And she's got this little thing. She was raping a student at the time. But I think those are separate.
Wait,
I think. What?
She won teacher of the month in the same month as this was going on?
Well, she was unlawfully and knowingly engaging in sexual penetration with a person of at least 13 years.
Oh, good God.
Okay, so,
Was it one of those things where, like, she had been doing this the month before and stopped, and they said, good improvement?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I had another teacher in New York City who posted on social media about teaching children consent. We got to make sure that we teach our kids about consent, and hey, they can consent. Apparently, she taught it really well to a 14-year-old student. She taught it to that 14-year-old student over and over and over again for many, many months.
A lot of dedication to the
dedication
there.
So I don't know about you. Again, I'm going to promise you your kids are going to feel safe. And, they're not. No, they're not. They're not. That's weird. Again, name the policy, name the thing that they're saying they're trying to stop, and show me the policy where it hasn't gotten 1,000 times worse.